I want to invite everybody to take a moment to reflect. Think back to an early memory of an accident. Did this first brush with pain come from a bike or a skateboard accident? Maybe a fall from a swing or a jungle gym. What did those first moments of pain feel like? We've all just recalled our first experience of adversity. Adversity can be described as a calamitous event or a state of hardship. It is something we all wish wouldn't happen, but despite our good intentions, it's an unavoidable consequence of life. Here is what I personally know about adversity. I experienced a calamitous event. This happened during a motorcycle race. And I experienced continuous hardship, and that I will never walk again. Like this iceberg, there's much to adversity that lies hidden. For me, I also experienced mental adversity as a result of a traumatic brain injury. I experienced emotional and financial adversity. I lost a fun, well-paying job as a carpenter, and I lost my house and my money, my girlfriend, and even my cat. If you're an inmate, you experience adversity. You're separated from freedoms, family, and friends. However, if they are victims of your crime, you have caused the same adversity in the lives of others. If you're to overcome the prejudice and judgments of others based on your past actions, you're probably going to need a plan to overcome adversity in your life. If you don't already have one, you may want to consider and adopt one I've come up with. So I'll share it with you here. My game plan for dealing with adversity is, number one, to accept and acknowledge it. When I awoke in an ICU and realized I couldn't feel anything below my waist and my legs wouldn't move at all, a nurse came in. She was like, "Derek, you were in a bad motorcycle accident. You broke your back, you're paralyzed." Once I finally figured out how bad my spinal injuries were, I accepted the fact that I would now be using this wheelchair for life. Next, don't try to change the past. Adversity has already happened. For me, I couldn't unbreak my back or uncrash my motorcycle. Then, it's up to you to change. You can't change the past. So decide to adapt and change in your own way. And when doing this, concentrate on what is in your control to change. Again, I say concentrate on what is in your control to change. Within days of learning of my new reality, not only was my back broken, but so were my spirit and heart. I needed healing on all levels. I could control to some extent how I would heal. As part of that process, I developed 3 simple goals for myself. These goals I developed were not based on what I couldn't do anymore, which was walk, but they were based on what I could still do. So these 3 goals for me were, number 1, to hit the weights and build upper body strength to get around this wheelchair. Number 2, I really needed to pray and seek spiritual guidance. And last, as a musician and guitarist, I wanted to get my guitar and make some music again. And the last step in my adversity process, dealing with it, involves a 4-letter word. Many of us have an aversion to this 4-letter word. It's work. So if you want to sit around and get fat, you at least are going to have to work at eating. If you guys have hopes of accomplishing something greater in this life, you're probably going to have to work even harder. Either way, nothing is accomplished without rolling up your sleeves and doing something. So, now that you've seen my plan, let's review the 3 simple goals I set out for myself in the rehab hospital. Well, even before that, when I was still in the ICU. So my first goal was to get stronger physically. Mercy was not on my side as doctors and therapists threw me into physical therapy within 10 days of my accident. The time allowed for TEDTalks forces me to skip the horrific details of everything I experienced. But neither the direness of a life sentence of paralysis or the torture and torment of the physical pain I experienced were numbed by the best prescription medications. Despite these facts and my woes, I decided to still apply myself in physical therapy. And to my surprise, within a month, I was able to bench press the rehab hospital's whole stack. As a result of my efforts, my physical therapist, Jason, got this tie for me. They hadn't given one of these out in 15 years because they hadn't had anybody do this in 15 years. So as I continued to get stronger and build my physical strength, I got involved in adapted wall climbing. My outpatient therapist at the time showed me a video of this guy who's on the ground right there. His name's Mark Wellman, and he's paraplegic as well. And he actually climbed a couple of big mountains out in California. If anybody's ever heard of Half Dome out in Yosemite, he actually climbed that just using his arms. So he developed this equipment, and within 6 months of my accident, I was able to meet him and try out this equipment. So that was a great blessing for me. And then I also got involved in martial arts. This is something I wanted to do all my life, and I didn't do it until I got in the wheelchair, so it's pretty amazing. And last but not least, water skiing. So I had a lot of fun out there on the water. And I said last but not least, but that's not last. I also got involved in hand cycling. And since getting involved in hand cycling, I've completed 5 marathons in that sport. So far, my best time for the 26.2-mile race has been 1 hour and 42 minutes. And my best finish has been 3rd. So my advice to get stronger in any area of your life is to do all you can and then pull out the extra that's needed to get to the next step. Because you will always fall short if you put 90% into a 110% objective. So go the extra mile. It will be worth it. So goal number 2, pray and build spiritual strength. I was not alone in my misery at the rehab hospital. The rehab hospital is full of people who had suffered similar or worse fates than mine. The first time I saw a guy who broke his neck and actually had a halo brace screwed into his skull, I knew I was actually pretty lucky things weren't worse for me. So in that process, my compassion for this guy and for others awoke. I found myself helping them, encouraging them, and wanting to do all I could to help them to heal in some way. As I continued to help more and more people, and I continued to pray, and I meditated on compassion and relieving suffering, I found myself being called to work with men right here inside this prison. I started my volunteer efforts probably about 11 years ago with Horizon, One Dorm. It's an interfaith program here. So through Horizon, I would meet with 1 to 2 outside brothers for a 9-month period. Here I am with my brother Ezra, one of my first brothers. So not just Ezra and I, but all my outside brothers. We shared our hopes, our dreams, and even our dirty jokes with each other. We laughed, we cried, We prayed together. And in this process, I discovered the humanity and light of men inside prison, and in doing so, I found more humanity, compassion, and spiritual strength in myself. These men, many of the men here today with this TEDx event, have inspired me to be better as a person. They've trained me to facilitate groups and have opened up new opportunities for me to serve. As you can see, we're now doing TEDx events together. And to quote our warden Jason Bunning from his first TED Talk, who would have thunk it? So to me, through all these efforts, it's revealed to me there's no higher purpose in life than service, because it's in giving that you receive. As I've given with my heart and shared generously and abundantly inside these walls, I have learned more from men inside this prison than you could learn in any school. And I've learned more about the mystery of the divine than you can learn in any church. Speaking of church, that's sort of the next step in my spiritual journey. That's where I met my lovely wife, Bobby, who is here today. So she has supported my efforts inside these walls and helped support many of the men I've worked with as well, just by being here for different events. As you can see, she's made our backyard the Garden of Eden, and she's also a great mom to our 3 cats and 2 dogs. So, goal number 3 of mine, music. Music, sweet music. This is my guitar here next to me. And at the time of my accident, I'd already played guitar for 17 years, since I was about 11 years old. So since my hands and arms weren't paralyzed, I was like, man, it's going to be a breeze to play again. And I was looking forward to doing something I was good at. However, when my girlfriend brought not this guitar, but brought a guitar to me in the hospital, I still had on this big turtle shell brace. My back was just all fused, and I had a lot more bigger, like cumbersome wheelchair than this at the time. And there's like no way I could get this guitar in the right position with all this stuff to play. So I figured, oh, maybe I'll get back in the hospital bed and try it that way too. That didn't work either. It just kept slipping down this brace, and I was like beyond frustrated at this point. But luckily, there's a therapist in the hospital. His name was Tony. And Tony was also a guitarist himself. And somehow he saw something in me. He's like, Derek, I'm going to help you. We're going to find a way for you to play again. So this started out with Tony strapping me into my wheelchair in different positions, and then he'd give me the guitar to play. After about a month of messing around like this, we sort of came up with a system that worked consistently, and I could play like for 10, 20 minutes at a time. So as I continued to work on this more, within a year, I was able to pretty much play without the straps and without being strapped in my chair. I was getting the courage and the confidence to hit the stage again. So at that point, I went to a Taylor guitar clinic. It was in Columbus, and I met this guitarist, Richard Leo Johnson, who was doing the clinic. And he was basically this amazing 12-string guitar player who was a virtuoso on the instrument. That night washed away any fears and doubts that I had about playing music again, and I developed the power to really believe in myself. And I knew I was going to be okay. Because after the clinic, Richard let me play around on his guitars. He showed me some alternative tunings, and he also gifted me with a signed CD, which he inscribed with the word heal. I know what you guys are thinking. I'm not a heel. I wasn't a heel that night. I'm not a heel today. But musically speaking, I was healed that night. I went home to compose several pieces that same night, which were released on my Medicine Wheel CD. And as of today, Taylor Guitars have helped me out on more than one occasion. They brought me in to see their factory efforts, and this is actually myself in the Taylor factory with Bob Taylor the founder and president of Taylor Guitars. And he's told me to save some notes for the rest of us. I've also gone on to play in music festivals around the world. I've played in 3 music festivals in Australia, music festivals in Washington, D.C., and with my friend Mike, who's a Native American flute player, we released a CD called Sketches in Time, and we received the Ohio Governor's Arts Award for Artists of the Year, and we were also nominated for 2 Native American Music Awards in 2008 for that effort. So there's lots of people who have helped me out in my journey, 2 of whom are my parents, who are also here today. But I want to let you guys know that I didn't sit around and wait for things to get better for me. Actually, come to think about it, I've been sitting around here for the last 16 years, so that's a lie. But I didn't wait to walk again. So my question is, what's holding you back? Because I surely hope it's not limitations followed by excuses. People are there to both inspire you and be inspired by you. But you won't find them sitting around in a pit of mud. So here's my latest endeavor. I'm back on the track now on 3 wheels instead of 2. I'm working on starting a high-performance driving program for people with disabilities. So far, I've got 3 people seriously committed and a couple other guys on the fence about this. But I'm working with Mid-Ohio Track School and some other people to make this happen. So everything's lining up for this as well. The right people are showing up at the right time. And here's what I hope to leave you guys with today. What I hope you guys can take with you is that adversity may seem like that first bicycle accident when it happens, but it also comes with hidden gifts. If I hadn't experienced my own adversity, I wouldn't be here today telling you these stories. So accept your adversity. It's there to prove you. Prove what's inside of you, prove your gifts, prove your talents. And accepting your adversity, also challenge it and find what you're really made of. And with that, I'm going to leave you guys with a little reflecting music. Thank you, guys.